wait on this, Brian, what happens? Who steps in? They're not going to give it to Bernie. So you got to call up Joe. I still think, yeah, he said he didn't want to do it and this and that and couldn't win. But I still think if push came to shove and they said, it's you, Joe, there wasn't anybody else on this bench, that he steps in late, gets a coronation, and doesn't even have to go through the rigors of a primary fight. Which against Clinton's could be very dirty.
Well, no question about that. Look, again, I would say anything's possible, although that particular point I'm a little skeptical of.
Well, I'm throwing it out there. I'm not saying that I believe this is going to happen.
Right.
Low odds possibility, but a possibility that at this point isn't even being discussed.
Right, right. Well, I will say this, though, and Tom, let's see if you're with me on this. I think regardless of who they run, if they can replicate the turnout that they had in 2008 and 2012, whoever they run, could be Bozo the Clown, the Democrats could win. I don't know that they can replicate that turnout with Hillary Clinton or with Uncle Joe.
Yeah.
But if they succeed in making that turnout model work for them every presidential cycle, we'll never win again.
Well, a lot of us said that they wouldn't be able to replicate it in 12 what they did in 08. You know, they had such a huge turnout of the minority voters. They said, you know, he hasn't done anything for him. He's been a disappointment. And so many of us were proven wrong on that, Brian.
That's right.
Because they more than duplicated in 12.
Yeah.
I do not believe, but I can be wrong again, that Hillary Clinton has that kind of mystique, especially amongst the young. The polls that I've seen show that especially amongst the young and the young women, they are not enamored with Hillary Clinton. And so if you put a fresh face, a Marco Rubio, a Ben Carson, in that role to confront her and do any, I mean, okay, the media won't do our work for us, but we can run paid ads which will expose her to the American people for what she is, with plenty of ammunition. We could run that from here to the end of tomorrow.
Right.
And with that, I think that they will not be able, because Barack Obama was a blank slate, Brian. We got to agree on that. Right, Mac? When Barack was a blank slate, we didn't have much to tie to him. We've got all sorts of stuff to tie to Hillary. So I don't think they're going to be able to duplicate it.
Well, I hope you're right, obviously. But,
Yeah.
but obviously in 2012, the Romney campaign was absolutely stunned. Mac, I don't know how much you've read about this, but the word is that they were so confident down the stretch because they were using the old turnout model.
Right.
And we were rocking that.
Yeah.
Absolutely smoking the independent vote.
Well, and Brian, this is why he played defense. He played prevent defense in those last couple of, I mean, once Candy Crowley lied to protect Barack Obama in that second debate after he had kicked his rear in that first debate.
First one, yeah.
Then he plays prevent defense in the last two instead of following up because he thought the turnout model had him and they were looking at it. We don't do anything to upset them. We've got this one. And you're right.
Yep.
Let's
And they
go
were
back to what you were
stunned.
saying.
Absolutely stunned.
Yep.
Well, it's going to be interesting tonight. The debates will be on, and we'll be able to watch our favorite people and see what's going to happen. What do you think's going to happen tonight? I mean, let's talk about the 10,000-pound gorilla in the corner. Who's Trump going to go after?
Well, he's got to go after Ben Carson. Ben Carson, he feels like, is his biggest threat, and to a lesser degree. Now, it's interesting though that how Cruz's PAC, not Cruz himself, but his PAC is going after Marco Rubio because they think that Rubio is his biggest challenge. They think that maybe the two non-traditional candidates will blow up and go away, and that it'll come down to Cruz against Rubio. Okay, Frank. Okay, I'm with you. Go ahead.
Finish your thought, Tom.
No, that was who goes after who.
Well, Tom, I just wanted to mention to you that according to Facebook, Ben Carson rented a video in 1992 and didn't rewind the cassette. CNN is going to have a 2-hour special on that tonight.
Thank you, Frank. That's good.
All right, it is about 25 minutes before the top of the hour. When we come back, I want to leave politics for just a second. Not that we won't come back to it, but I want to talk about this University of Missouri thing.
Okay. Well, that is political, too.
Just what an outrage it is. But before we get to that when we come back, what a former Secret Service officer, said about the ex-presidents that he...
Going back to Kennedy.
Yeah, he took care of. We'll do that next, right here, live on The Truth.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
All right, 22 minutes before the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network News at the top, and then Hank the Bible Answer Man. 1-888-ASK-HANK. I say this every day to you, and I'm not kidding you. You oughta call in now if you're gonna. Boy, that's bad English. You ought to call in now if you're going to, because this is a nationwide show and they stack up. We do have callers from Des Moines get in from time to time, but call now, sit on hold, won't cost you anything. It's toll-free, 1-888-ASK Hank. All right, real quick, before we get into the Colorado thing, I want to share with you something that Tom sent me via not Facebook. You don't use Facebook.
No, I just sent an email over to you, but and it was shared by a friend from the club with me, but it was, I thought, pretty powerful. Most of the information I had gleaned from other sources, but tell them about it, Mac.
Well, Ronald Kessler, who was a 40-year veteran of the Secret Service, and even after he was no longer, Dirty Harry running alongside the vehicles, he was still in an administration office in the White House. So he was actually in the White House. But when he stopped, running down the cars with the guns. These are snippets from his new book called Secrets of the Secret Service. Never Stand in Line Again. That's the name of the book. Never Stand in Line Again, Secrets of the Secret Service. All right, so this is what Kessler thought of the different presidential candidates. Presidents. John and Jackie Kennedy, a philanderer of the highest order. She ordered the kitchen help to save all the leftover wine from state dinners, mixed it with fresh wine, and served it again at the next White House occasion. That's just what this guy says. All right, Nan, we get to LBJ. Lyndon and Lady Bird Johnson, another philanderer. I'm not saying
philanderer.
Philanderer of the highest order. If you don't know what that is, that's a cheater. Cheater, pumpkin eater. Another philanderer of the highest order. In addition, you just like my mental disorder coming out all over the place, don't you, Brian? Both JFK and LBJ kept a lot of women in the White House for extramarital affairs and both had set up early warning systems to alert them if and when their wives were nearby. Both were promiscuous and oversexed men. No comment. She was either naive or just pretended not to know about her husband's many liaisons. Richard and Pat Nixon, a good moral man, but very odd, weird, paranoid. He had a horrible relationship with his family and was almost a recluse. She was quiet most of the time. She wasn't quiet, she was drunk. Well, I'm an alcoholic, so I can say that.
Well, there's more than one first lady in that thing that talked about, and
Betty Ford.
Go ahead.
So Pat Nixon was an alcoholic? I didn't realize that.
Hey,
Yes.
Mac,
Okay.
they said JFK, when his wife was coming home, they was literally exiting people out the back door as Mrs. Kennedy come in the front.
Yeah, I believe that to be true. Now, here's a name we haven't heard in a long time, Spiro Agnew. One that took over for...
Well, he was the vice president that was run out under Nixon. And
Nice.
Remember, that's why Gerald Ford got to be the VP.
Nice, decent man. Everyone in the Secret Service was surprised by his downfall. Then we have Gerald and Betty Ford, a true gentleman who treated the Secret Service with respect and dignity. He had a great sense of humor. She drank a lot. I'm just saying that's what it says.
Well, Betty Ford Center,
that we all knew.
Yeah.
Now, here's a surprise. Jimmy and Rosalind Carter, a complete phony who would portray one picture of himself to the public and very different in private. Examples, he would show carrying his own luggage, but the suitcase was always empty. He always kept ones just for photo ops. He wanted people to see him as pious and a non-drinker, but he and his family drank alcohol a lot. He had disdain for the Secret Service and they were very irresponsible with, quote unquote, the football. We all know that's the nuclear thing they carry around. He didn't think it was a big deal and would keep military aides at a great distance. Often did not acknowledge the presence of the Secret Service personnel assigned to serve him. She mostly did her own thing. Ronald and Nancy Reagan, the real deal, moral, honest, respectful, and dignified. They treated Secret Service and everyone else with respect and honor. Thanked everyone all the time. He took the time to know everyone on a personal level. One favorite story was early in his presidency when he came out of his room with a pistol, tucked in his hip. The agent in charge asked, why the pistol, Mr. President? He replied, in case you boys can't get the job done, I can help. It was common for him to carry a pistol. When he met with Gorbachev, he had a pistol in his briefcase. She was very, very nice, but very protective of her husband, and the Secret Service was often caught in the middle. She tried hard to control what he ate. He would say to the agent, come on, you got to help me out here. The Reagans drank wine during state dinners and special occasions only. Otherwise, they shunned alcohol. The Secret Service could count on one hand the times they were served wine during family dinner. For all the fake bluster about the Carters, the Reagans were the ones who lived life as genuinely moral people.
Mac, Ronald Reagan so revered the Oval Office, he would never enter the Oval Office without his suit coat on.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. George H. and Barbara Bush, extremely kind and considerate, always respectful, took care in making sure the agents' comforts were taken care of. They even brought them meals. One time she brought warm clothes to the agent standing outside Kennebunkport. One was given a blanket and a hat, and when he tried to say no thanks, even though he was obviously freezing, the president said, "Son, don't argue with the first lady. Put the hat on." He was most impressed. He was the most prompt of the presidents. He ran the White House like a well-oiled machine. She ruled the House and spoke her mind.
Here comes the next one.
Bill and Hillary Clinton.
Oh, boy.
Presidency was one giant party. Not trustworthy. He was nice mainly because he wanted everyone to like him. But to him, life was just one big game and party.
Mac, do you think we should have some sort of family warning here for the next couple of minutes so we describe this administration?
No, I think kids ought to know. I think they ought to know. Everyone knows about his sexuality, but you should have seen hers. She is another phony. Her personality would change the instant cameras were near. She hated, with open disdain, the military and the Secret Service. She was another one who felt people were there to serve her. She was always trying to keep tabs on Bill Clinton. No surprise. Albert Gore, an egotistical arse who was once overheard by his Secret Service detail lecturing his son that he needed to do better in school or he would wind up like one of those guys, pointing to the agents. Ooh. And then, of course, George and Laura Bush, the Secret Service loved them. He was also the most physically in shape, who had a very strict workout. The Bushes made sure the entire administrative and household staff understood that they were to be respected and that they would be considerate of the Secret Service. She was one of the nicest first ladies, if not the nicest. She never had any harsh word to say about anybody.
And finally, last but not least,
Barack and Michelle Obama.
Hussein.
Here we go.
Clinton all over again. Hates the military and looks down at the Secret Service. He is egotistical and cunning. He looks at you in the eyes and appears to agree with you, but turns around and does the opposite. He has temper tantrums. She's a complete B-word who basically hates anybody who is not black, hates the military, and looks at the Secret Service as their servants.
Read that last story. Did you see the last story, Mac?
Oh, no. Who's this?
The last story, you got to read that.
All right. So this was a true story about General McChrystal's resignation in Obama's office. General McChrystal's book, Never Stand in Line Again. Some men carry and handle diplomacy better than others. When former U.S. military commander in Afghanistan, General McChrystal, was called into the Oval Office by Barack Obama, he knew things weren't going to go well when the president accused him of not supporting him in the political role as president. McChrystal replied, "It's not my job to support you as a politician, Mr. President. It's my job to support you as the commander-in-chief," and then handed Obama his resignation. Not satisfied with accepting McChrystal's resignation, the president made a cheap parting shot. "I bet when I die, you'll be happy to urinate on my grave." The general saluted and said, "Mr. President, I've always told myself after leaving the Army, I'd never stand in line again."
Isn't that great?
That is. All right. Closing thoughts on Missouri. We'll come back.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Good afternoon. 10 minutes before 5 o'clock, Salem Radio Network News. Excuse me. And then we have Ask the Bible Answer Man, Hank. Excuse me, got to get a drink there. And he's going to be able to take your calls at 1-888-ASK-HANK. 1-888-ASK-HANK. Now, here's the latest. So we know that there are two reported incidents. One of a white person calling a black person the N-word.
So, allegedly, I think.
Allegedly,
I don't think there's confirmation other than the black guy who had been at that school for close to 8 years. Now, how you stay in school as an undergrad for nearly 8 years, I don't know. But he supposedly was walking along, as I understand it, Mac, heard somebody unknown holler the N-word at him. He felt frightened and expected the president's office to do something about it.
Frank?
Hey, Gary called to the call before this last one. That was a sales call. Gary wanted to mention what you guys were saying about JFK was absolutely true, and that when it come to Ike, everybody loved Ike. Gary said he got to visit the White House and seen him when he was 13 years old with his grandmother.
Well, thank you, Gary, for calling in, and thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, and then there was an incident where there was a swastika made out of human or some type of feces that was put on some campus wall, some campus building. And the president was supposed to do something about that. He didn't like it. Now, remember, guys, this is Missouri. What was the last thing we heard about Missouri?
Ferguson. When unrealistic expectations were put before authorities, it simply could not be met. And what did they do? They burned and rioted their own community. What did they do here? Well, they got the football team, the head coach, and the athletic director to agree that the football team, the unbelievable 4-5 Missouri Tigers, would not take the field another game until the president resigned. If they had been 9-0, do you think that might have happened, Matt?
Never. Never. I can't believe the president resigned, but I suppose there was a bunch of regents or whoever they are over there who said, we're going to lose too much money. This is embarrassing. You need to step down, because they were going to lose $1 million this week alone if they didn't play the team they were scheduled to play. Yeah. Now, here's the new one. The University of Missouri sent out a campus-wide email this morning, asking individuals who witnessed the hateful or hurtful speech or actions to immediately report them. The email would not define what constitutes hateful speech or actions, but did say if anyone experiences or hears it, they're immediately to get in touch with the cops and provide a detailed description. If you can't get a hold of the campus police, guess who you're supposed to call, Tom? 911.
911. Is either that or the White House. I wasn't sure which.
911.
Well, Mac, I'm going to predict right now, guys, that this is not going to be the last incident of its kind that we're going to see in the future. I think the way that these people rolled up, threw up their arms, and gave up, and obviously, these kids aren't coming up with this. There's professional left-wing organizers, the Black Lives Matter crowd that are orchestrating this. But given the success that they had so easily and so quickly, and all you had to do is recruit the football team, we are going to see more of this. And alleged, again, there's no even confirmation that this initial incident that happened occurred other than this one guy's word. And like I say, he'd been on campus for 7-8 years, hadn't gotten a degree, and was still hanging around. So we are going to see more of this, and the activists are going to turn to these. They may be college kids, but they're your low-information voter, Mac. They've been raised on politically correct pablum, They are not mature adults, and we are going to see them used again and again to further these agendas.
I think Tom's right. And when you see something like this happen, and it's a big success story from their perspective, you're going to see it replicated. And it's unfortunate because, as you say, this guy resigned. And he probably had no choice. He probably was getting pressured from 100 different ways.
Yep.
And the only way he was going to save his job, you and I talked about that earlier today, he probably was going to have to do a series of mea culpas and crawl on broken glass up a set of stairs on campus, and say, woe is me. That was the kind of thing that people were going to have to see from him in order for him to save his job. Tom's right. The fact that they rolled over with what at least appears from the outside looking in, appears to be over precious little that can be proved by evidence. There's no reason for these people not to just keep right on pushing.
Why wouldn't they? So here's what somebody told me, and I thought this was awesome. Somebody with some gonads ought to go to the
Fortitude.
There we go. Ought to go to the university sports department and say, all you players that are on scholarship that said you refuse to play again, your scholarships are gone. I mean, they're 4 and 5, for heaven's sakes. Who cares? I mean, that's worse than Nebraska. Or no, maybe that's the same as Nebraska. Anyway, won't there be any recoil back on these players? What have we become that we allow them to blackmail us?
Not only allow them, Mac, they will probably be feted. They will be raised up on pedestals, and they will be interviewed and celebrated as great, brave young men who stood for principle. The media is orchestrating some of this. They are going to raise them up, and they are going to either encourage others and other teams and other schools to do the same thing, or if you do not, that's when the pillory begins. That's when the harassment begins. Oh, you won't do this? You won't stand up for your own guys here?
Yeah.
No. I mean, it's going to be a carrot and a stick, and you're going to see it more and more. It's such an easy deal, and you will see. I'm afraid that we've moved to the next level.
Well, and it's racism.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that we can blame all this on President Obama, but we can, at least with respect to the timeline.
Yes.
Since that guy took office,
yes,
we have become hopelessly divided as a culture along all these different cultural lines, whether it's race or whether it's sexuality.
Particularly race, Brian. Particularly race. If I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon. The police acted stupidly. Sends 40 FBI down to investigate the shooting of the Gentle Giant down in Ferguson. And he said recently he hoped that he was able to help the race issue in this country. He has done more to inflame the race issue than any other single man in my lifetime.
I agree.
So will we learn? Will we learn? We white guys, black guys, those of us who are not low information voters, who are intelligent, who can see through the baloney, will we learn that this is it's simply a different class of people, and they don't deserve scholarships, and they ought to have their welfare taken away. We ought to get them to jobs. We ought to put them back in the America that we all grew up in, where you got to work hard and have respect for people before you earn respect. I don't know what's going to happen. Thomas, thank you, as always. Like to see you. Brian, thanks for coming in. You're welcome anytime. Frank, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and if I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. I love this job, and I couldn't do it without you. We'll see you tomorrow, and until then, do me a favor. Forgive somebody that you need to forgive, because as you forgive, you shall be forgiven. I'll see you in church.